Hi guys, and welcome to another Wonder Hero video. So in this video I'll be talking about the so-called the most OP or the strongest PvP weapons that I've experienced to date. So personally I am currently at Gold rank, which is they only have up to Gold rank right now. So waiting to see how I perform in this week's Gold rank, and then if I get promoted to Diamond, and from Diamond then we will see who goes to Legendary. So currently, yep. So I can see I'm in Gold rank, and I am currently not reflected here, but after I have 15 wins today, so I ended up in like 6th position, I think. So this is actually not updated yet, but yeah. So that's it. Then which is like continuously 5 wins for 3 days, right? So I have a 100% win rate in offense, but I don't have a 100% win rate in defense. Actually, defense is kind of hard as well because kind of like the attacker team always gets the advantage because whoever attacks first gets to do the damage first and gets to kill the opponent heroes first. So once you kill the opponent heroes, you reduce a lot of their damage output. So this is why, I mean, in my opinion, I think offense attacking teams have a way bigger advantage than defensive teams. So it's a lot harder to win on defense as compared to offense. Okay. So moving forward, talking about the weapons, let's go into the marketplace. Let's talk about the healing weapons, right? So first and foremost, the healing weapons, like it has to be from Nightingale. The most OP healing weapon actually is this one. Somebody is trying to sell this one for $1,200. Definitely not worth it. It will cost an arm and a leg. But this weapon is the most OP healing weapon that is available in the game right now. What it does, if you look at its description, is that it heals nearby allies for 150 plus 160% attack plus 5% max hit points. So basically, yeah, 160% attack plus 5% of the max hit point of the target, I think. So if like the hit point of the target is like 10,000, this will heal like an additional 500. I think that's all. Yeah. So if the hit point of the nearby ally with the lowest hit point is less than 50%, so if they're less than half health, before the enemy takes action or after Nightingale gets attacked, it activates emergency mode and heals the ally for plus 50% of the ally's max hit point. So this is where it is OP. The emergency mode is actually quite OP. So that means as long as one of your allies, right, is below 50% health, and then right before the enemy actually attacks, the Nightingale will actually heal the ally for 50% of the ally's hit points. So in PvP, usually our hit points, I think, get doubled from the normal PvE mode. So most of the like level 100 heroes have around 10k to 11k hit points. So when you heal 50%, you're healing for like around 5 to 6,000 hit points per emergency mode heal. And this emergency mode heal, actually, I think it's one heal every turn or like more than once a turn because it's right before the enemy takes action, as long as the ally is less than 50%. So I think it actually heals I think it has unlimited use. Emergency mode has unlimited users per turn, if I'm not wrong. So this causes them to suffer after effects, reducing their heal boost by 33% for 7 turns. This after effects, I don't see it being a big deal in game. Like I'm seeing the allies, their enemy still gets healed for like a ridiculous amount, right, of hit points. So after 3 stacks of after effects on that particular hero, emergency mode will no longer be activated. Yeah, which is actually quite fast. Because in PvP, when you have so much damage power, so much attack power going into your heroes, right? So emergency mode gets activated very frequently, and it's very quickly that you will get 3 stacks of emergency mode, and then the heal boost, the negating heal boost will fade away, and then you get full heal from the emergency mode. But after 3 stacks of after effects, okay, so there is a limit. So stacks up to 3 times. After 3 stacks of after effects on that particular hero, emergency mode will no longer be activated. But still, this is three emergency mode heals per allied hero. So you have like I think in game I see this working on Nightingale herself as well. So you have 4 heroes. That means 3 per hero. 3 stacks of emergency mode. That means you will have up to 12 heals of 12 emergency mode heals per team before it is no longer activated. So this is 12 heals of 5 to 6,000 hit points per hero. So it makes your team super ultra tanky. So this is the Twin Lotus, is one of the most OP weapon, most OP healing weapon. Then next up, let's go to the offense. Offense wise, Helen's 4-star weapon is kind of OP as compared to 5. Okay, let's maybe before I go on to Helen, let's talk about Nightingale's other healing weapons and why they aren't as strong, so to say. So first and foremost, if you look at Auspicious Days, basically it heals all nearby allies for, is it AoE heal, right? 5 plus 40% of caster's attack. So increases frontal allies elemental defense, so just increase their defense by 5%, and then and the rear allies elemental effect by 2%, by 5%, stacks up to 5 times. So this is quite a low effect, right? So nothing OP, nothing strong. So this is also an AoE heal for Pansy. Heals all nearby allies for 5 plus 40%, increases their heal boost by 5%, stack up to 5 times. So it's still not as OP as the emergency effect, which is like a 5 to 6k heal boost and for 3 times per hero before the enemy attacks as well. So then what else do we have? The other one is this one, Forbidden Destined Rejuvenation. So also an AoE heal. This skill restores additional hit points every 3 turns. So it only does an additional 1-time heal every 3 turns. So it's still not that OP. Unless you like level this up to max, right? Unless your like AoE heal is super ultra max. Which I do have one of the players in my friend list, which is Pekyo-san, the Japanese player. I think he's using for Destined Rejuvenation, but his Destined Rejuvenation as his Nightingale attack power is off the charts. He's doing AoE heals of 2 to 3,000 for every hero around him. So 2 to 3,000 AoE heals per turn. So like it's 2 to 3,000 per hero per turn of AoE heal. So his attack power, I think he's probably maxed out his the stats here. The attack power is insane. He must have some very insane attack power on his Nightingale in order to get that much AoE heal for every one of his heroes. So unless you are like max it out to that much, what I was going to say, the Twin Lotus is the most OP healing weapon that I've seen so far. Okay, so as compared to the other 5-star weapons. So that's for healing wise. Let's go on to offense weapon. The next OP offense weapon is actually from Helen von Kraus, rated as one of the best range DPS. And what makes her really OP in PvP is actually her 4-star weapon. So if we look at the description for her 4-star weapon, deals 10 plus 100% of the caster's attack physical damage to the target. Right, so this is the first attack. So if the caster's charge is more than 12, you will deal additional 10 plus. So this amount is not significant, but the percentage is significant. 150% of the caster's attack physical damage. So this is a second additional wave of damage. So the first attack is 100%. Second wave of attack is 150%. So this is 250%. But you will the so-called the caveat here is that if the caster's charge is more than 12, will the second wave of attack be triggered. So here, what helps this charge to gain really fast, right, is that this weapon will allow the hero to gain 2 charge at the end of each turn. The hero's attacks will reduce target defense by 10 for 3 turns. So this is also one of the passives of all of Helen's weapons. Like they will reduce the target's I think it actually doesn't reduce the target's defense. This is actually a bug description. In game, you will see that actually her attacks, right, Helen's attacks, reduces the opponent's attack by 10 for 3 turns. So it actually reduces the opponent's attack instead of the opponent's defense. So this description here is still bugged, but actually reduces opponent's attack, which is not that strong, not that OP. What is strong is this gaining of 2 charge. So if this only gains 2 charge, right, you have to remember that Helen's passive, which is Troy Core, so hero starts with 5 charge of 5 stacks of charging at the beginning of the battle, and 2 stacks of charging at the end of each turn. So the passive of Troycore already gives Helen 2 charges at the end of every turn. And this weapon called Manticore, the 4-star weapon, gives her additional 2 charge at the end of every turn. So if we use our calculator, this means that she actually gains 4 charges at the end of every turn. So imagine she starts with 5 charge when she goes into battle. So now she gains plus 4 charges every single turn, right? So 5 plus 4, that is, at the end of turn 1, she will have 9 charge. So at the end of turn 2, you plus 4 again, she will have 13 charge. So in the first 2 turns, right, you will not see Helen doing this additional attack. But once it's at turn 3, once it starts from turn 3, Helen will do the additional wave of 150% attack continuously as her charge actually gains every single turn. Because she only uses up her charge, I believe, when she uses the ultimate. So let's see, stacks up to 20 times. So right, she can stack up to 20 charges. And with each attack, she has overload. So her charges do not decrease, only her overload increases. So obviously when her overload reaches the maximum of 20, she disarms herself for 2 turns. But usually this will take pretty long for overload to reach 20. The PvP match which is usually likely over by then. I think it's like turn 10 or turn 12 before she gets to overload 20. Basically, if you're talking about charges, right, the only way she uses up all her charge is through her ultimate. So attacks randomly over 5 hits, and for every 2 charge the caster has, launches an additional attack at the cost of 2 charge. So basically, her ultimate skill of Thunder Guardian will use up all her 20 charges. That means you can stack up to maximum of 20 charges, and then only the ultimate depletes the charge. So what this means is that as long as Helen doesn't use her ultimate, right, she is at more than 12 charge after turn 3. So after turn 3, she will do 250% damage every turn. So 250, imagine it's 250% every turn. And this is at weapon level 1. So if you level it up like my hero itself, maybe I can show you when I load up my game. So if you actually level up your Helen's weapon, right, by going for higher modification level and higher weapon level, you can actually get the percentage to keep increasing. So it starts at 250% and it keeps going higher and higher and higher. So I don't think there's any other weapon other than Fran's weapon, because Fran's 4-star weapon actually deals double damage. So technically it's 200% damage. So I'm gonna do this, lower, and let's look at my hero description for this. So my code Manticore, when I previously bought it, it was already previously upgraded by the previous seller. So if you look at this, it is currently at +6 weapon level, and its modification level is +7. So at level 7 modification level, right, if you look at the description on the left here, the first attack deals 150 plus 160% damage. So if you just focus, we don't focus on the 150, you focus on the percentage damage, right? There's 160% damage in the first attack. And then after her charges goes more than 12, which is after turn 3, she deals another 240% damage. So 240% plus 160%, if you do the quick math, it is 400%. So she deals 400% of damage after turn 3. This is only at level 7 modification. So I think if we max it out, so if you look at the description, if you max it out to level 10, which will cost an arm and a leg, cost additional 2000 horn and 21 WND, that's very expensive. It will do 190 plus 285%. So if we do the math, how much is this? At level 10 modification level, 190 plus 285, 475%. So it's close to 500% damage for Helen's 4-star weapon. So also what makes her 4-star weapon is actually only her 4-star weapon does an AoE attack. That means it attacks in a square of 3 by 3. That means in PvP, right, if all the enemy heroes, that means that only 4 of the enemy heroes are within this 3 by 3 square, all 4 of the enemy heroes will suffer 400% of Helen's attack in that one single turn. So she basically does 4 times 4. She can do up to 1200% of her attack across all the 4 enemy heroes, if so happen that all the 4 heroes are within that 3x3 square. And obviously, because PvP battle is AI controlled, so the AI, obviously, they will bunch up together most of the time, and most of the time, at least 2 to 3 heroes will get hit by the 3x3 effect of Code Manticore. And why is her other weapons not so good? I will show you is that the range, right, of her other 5-star weapons are actually terrible. So if we select Helen, and this is in Battlestar. You can only see this in the Battlestar, which is the Steam version of the game, the free gacha game. This is a Code Chimera, which is a 3-star. You can see that it only attacks in a straight line, and the ability is Leap, as compared to her 4-star weapon, which is ability is Deadeye. Actually, you can see it here as well. If you click on this, so it's Leap, right? So what Leap ability does is that it only hits the first target in that line of fire. So effectively, the Code Chimera, the 3-star weapon, can only hit 1 target per turn. But if you go to a 4-star weapon, the ability here is actually Deadeye. And Deadeye is actually broken because Deadeye means that the attack is not affected by, it's not blocked by any obstruction. So even if a hero is standing in front of the other hero, right, the back hero will still get hit. That is what ability of Deadeye means. It means everyone in that 3x3 square will get hit, regardless of whether there's anything in front that's blocking it. So it means that everybody will get hit in that 3x3 square. So that's for Deadeye. And then if you look at her 5-star weapons like Hook Griffin, which is actually very common in the market. If we look at the market, right, for 5-star Helen weapons, like Code Griffin is selling a lot, and Code Manticore actually is selling at a lower price, but Code Manticore is actually a lot better than Code Griffin. Why? Because Code Griffin also does a single line of fire and also has the Leap ability instead of the Deadeye ability. So it means it only hits 1 single enemy at a time for Code Griffin. Unlike, I think, Angela, if you're talking about Angela's 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star weapons, her ability is actually Deadeye. So Angela also is the other range hero that attacks in a straight line, but since her ability is Deadeye instead, Angela will actually attack all the enemies in that particular line of fire. So she can sometimes hit like 2 enemies or like 3 enemies in a row. So actually Angela does more damage than this. So Code Griffin, I mean, what it does is, you can see the description here, dealing 60% first damage, and then for every 5 overload, it deals additional 60%. So this is not as good because it doesn't associate with charge, right? Instead, it associates with overload. And overload only comes after Helen does a lot of damage. So basically, only Helen said that reduce physical resist, sex up to 20 times, and so on and so forth. So this is associated with overload instead. Let's see if the Wonder Hero one is the same. Correct. So it's only, so the additional attack only comes with overload. So this has been upgraded for modified 4 times. So basically, if Helen doesn't have overload, she doesn't do the additional attack, and she only gains overload after she attacks. So if she's not attacking, she's not gaining overload. So she only gains overload, 1 stack of overload after attacking, loses 1 stack at the end of each turn. So there is a chance that if Helen only attacks 1 hero and then clears the overload, right, there's a chance that she actually doesn't get 5 overload. Yeah. Oh, okay. So this additional attack. Okay, so this is striking twice. Sorry, I missed this description. So this hits twice. So basically, her basic weapon at level 1, right, is 60% times 2 because it hits the target twice, which is 120%. So that's 120% and modification level 1. Then if the overload is more than 5, she'll do another 60%. So that's 120 goes up to 180%, but the 180% rarely triggers because she has to go up to more than 5 overload. So in order for her to go up to 5 overload, I think every 2 turns, because she hits the target twice, so every 2 turns she gets 2 overload and she clears 1. So if she's hitting 1 single target for every turn, right, I think it's only up to turn 6 and beyond, then Helen will get more than 5 overload, she'll get 6 overload, and then she will start doing this additional 180% of damage. So you compare that means turn 6 where she does 180%, but for the 4-star weapon at turn 3, she already starts doing 250%. And the 250% for the code Manticore, which we can show here for the code Manticore, 250% starts, does way earlier, and it hits all the enemies in that 3x3 square. So code Manticore will hit more enemies for a higher percentage of damage. Yeah, and it's not obstructed by, enemies or by obstructions in the battlefield. So that's for Code Griffin. So the other 5-star weapon that's maybe good is this one, Code Argus. Deals 150% physical damage. If the overload is more than 5, it deals additional 50%. Reduces. So this one reduces ultimate cooldown. But in terms of percentage damage, it doesn't do that much, right? Because it only does 150% for one single attack as compared to 250% at after turn 3 for the 4-star weapon. But the Code Argus will do additional 50% if the overload is more than 5. But like I mentioned, to get overload larger than 5, most likely you have to wait until it goes after turn 5 or more. But this one has ability of Deadeye, so this has the ability to hit all the targets in that 3x3 square. So other than that, actually, all her other 5-star weapons, right, actually are not as good as the 4-star weapon, because they go by the leap ability and they only attack in a single line, so they only attack one single enemy at a time. But anyway, all these other 5-star weapons, right, like Pegasus, Otus, Hydra, Phoenix, all these are actually not available in the marketplace. Even Code Argus is really very rare. The most commonly seen one is Code Griffin, as you can see here. Most common is Code Griffin, and there's one Code Argus at overpriced 700 USDT. Nobody wants to buy, and there's a Code Sphinx here at 250. I don't think anybody wants to buy that as well in this current market because it's also not that strong. So her 4-star weapon is actually the most OP. Okay, so that's enough about Helen. The last OP weapon is actually for Celeste. So Celeste, let me grab a drink. So Celeste, as many people already know, it is quite an OP hero by herself because her ultimate actually has a lifesteal, right? So her ultimate lifesteals in all the surrounding heroes around her. But what gives her additional lifesteal is her 4-star weapon. So her 3-star weapon, if we go to, maybe it's easier to see here. Look at Celeste, click on weapon. So we can see the item description in Battlestar here. Sacrifice here, we must look at the sacrifice mechanic, right, to see why the 4-star weapon is OP. So for her 3-star Forging Steel, so the sacrifice mechanic is that it increases Celeste's attack when the sacrifice attack stamp only increases by 5%. So not a lot, it's not bad, but it's not a lot. The 4-star weapon actually, wherever sacrifice is attacked by Celeste, or when the sacrifice is attacked by allies, because it doesn't state who needs to attack the sacrifice. As long as the particular sacrifice is attacked by Celeste or any one of her allied heroes, it will heal Celeste for 50 plus 5%. But in Wonder Hero, right, this is actually bugged. It's not 50 plus 5%. It's actually 50 plus 50%, which I will show some of the footage. I will edit some of the footage of my PvP matches, and you can see that. So in the PvP matches itself, because the hit points is actually doubled, so typically speaking, the average heal, right? So it's very similar to the emergency effect of the earlier one that I mentioned, which is Nightingale's 5-star green weapon, which is the Twin Ivory. Is that the Twin Ivory? Let me check out here. It's very similar to Nightingale's. Take this one. Yeah, Twin Lotus, sorry. Yeah, very similar to the emergency effect of Twin Lotus, whereby she gets a 50% heal. But in this case, for Celeste, as long as, even at level 1, right? No. Let me go back to 4-star weapon. For Celeste, even at level 1, the lifesteal is actually 50%. So the item description is bugged because in-game is actually 50% instead of 5%. I don't know whether the Wonder Hero team is going to fix this, because if they fix this in any patch, the Hellish Paw is going to be massively nerfed, right? Because that's a huge 45% difference in the lifesteal. So to put into perspective, how much is that 50% of lifesteal is that in PvP, most, let's say in the higher levels, most of the heroes are at least level 60 to level 100, right? If you're level 100, most of the time the hit points, in PvP, the hit point pool is double as well. So a hero with an average hit point of like maybe 5,000 gets doubled to like 11,000 or 10,000 hit points. So when you steal 50% of like 10k or 12k hit points, that's a 5 to 6,000 amount of lifesteal per attack on the sacrifice. So let's say Celeste attacks the sacrifice, she heals 5,000, 6,000 hit points. And then her allies attacks the sacrifice, Celeste will heal another 5 to 6,000 hit points. So even if Celeste is near death, right? Let's say Celeste has like 12k hit points. She's down to like one single hit point. And then you don't manage to kill her in that turn. The next following turn, right? Celeste attacks the sacrifice, she heals 6k. And then her allies attacks the sacrifice again, she heals another 6k. So she's back to full health, 12k hit points again. And then she becomes almost unkillable, right? The only way that we kill her is actually for the sacrifice effect to actually wear out, because the sacrifice effect will only last for 3 turns. Skill this 1 damage, deals elemental damage. Celeste attack also marks the target as a sacrifice. So you can see here that there's a limit to the number of times that Celeste marks the sacrifice. She can mark the sacrifice up to twice, and each time the sacrifice effect will last for 3 turns. So technically speaking, if she hits a target in turn 1, let's say, then the sacrifice effect at in theory, the shortest time the sacrifice effect can last is up to 6 turns. But you also need to understand that she doesn't need to, how should I say, she doesn't apply the sacrifice effect on every one of the enemy heroes straight away. Since Celeste is a melee hero that only hits around her, right? All she has to do is to activate the sacrifice target on one single enemy at a time, and then later in the game, she activates the sacrifice effect on another enemy, and then later in the game, she activates on the 3rd enemy and the 4th enemy and so on. As long as 1 or 2 of the enemy heroes have a sacrifice effect on them and they get hit, Celeste will get the full heal, so to say. So there is a high chance that the sacrifice effects will actually last more than turn 6, which I've actually experienced in game. So I've actually played against certain rounds against certain enemy teams that she keeps applying the sacrifice effect on me until eventually all my heroes have had 6 turns of sacrifice effect on them, and I managed to outlast the Celeste, because the Celeste didn't do enough damage to overcome my healing effects on my heroes, and then my heroes don't die. So I think it's up to turn 12 or turn 15 before Celeste finally has no more sacrifice effects to lifesteal from, and I could finally kill her Celeste. Because if before that, as long as she has the sacrifice effect active, the Celeste's effect essentially immortal, right? It's truly a monster, truly immortal, and keeps lifestealing. So as compared to her 5-star weapons, actually is not that good, because the sacrifice effect for this evil gravestone, which is very commonly listed in the market, as well as the forbidden something, as well as the restless soul. So there's 3. So if you look at the lowest prices of a 5-star weapons in the market, Evil Gravestone, Restless Soul are the most common. So if you look at Evil Gravestone and Restless Soul, you can look at their sacrifice effect. This one marks the target. Sacrifice is defeated. So only when the sacrifice is defeated, increases all allies attack and resist by only a mere 50, right? So at the max level, if you only increase the attack and resist by 50, it is basically nothing. Unless maybe this one is, if you increase attack and resist by maybe like 300 to 500, then maybe it has some effect on like the top tier of PvP where everybody is level 100. Then if you look at this is Evil Gravestone, right? What's the other common one? Restless Soul. So what Restless Soul does is chooses the first enemy of 4 columns as a sacrifice, drains strength, triggers additional 10 plus 50% of her attack 1 to 4 times. So this is not bad. It actually does more damage because it will drain attack from the sacrifice. Whenever a sacrifice is defeated, Celeste will take armor piercing damage. So this is not good, because if when she defeats a sacrifice with the Restless Soul, she actually takes 100% of her attack as armor piercing damage, and then she gets her attack reduced by 25%. So this is actually, I don't know why, yeah, but this is actually not a good weapon, right? Because whenever, especially in PvP, if during the first few turns, like when you're draining attack from the sacrifice and then you're doing this extra damage, it's still okay. But after you start to kill somebody, right, you kill the sacrifice, then Celeste will take additional damage. And in PvP, actually, sustain is quite important because everybody is doing a ton of damage. You actually need a ton of sustain in order to outlast your enemy, or you have to out-damage your enemy, so to say. Out-damage the amount of sustain. The other ones, I think, are... Let's see this. This one, Forbidden Joy of Spectres, I think maybe not bad. So mark sacrifice, triggered the most twice. So whenever the sacrifice attacks Celeste, it restores 200 plus 50% of sacrifice attack as hit point. So this depends on how high the sacrifice attack is. Because if the sacrifice has 1000 hit points, 1000 attack, so 200 plus 50 plus 50% of 1000, so it's 200 plus 500. So that's 700 hit points of restore. But this is still way less than the 4-star weapon, which is healing like 5 to 6,000 per not even per turn, right? 5 to 6,000 amount of heal each time the opponent sacrifice is getting attacked. So it's still less than the 4-star. This effect can be triggered 5-star. The healing effect decays 5%. So all in all, right now the 4-star weapon for Celeste, which is the Hellish Claw, is still broken because this item description is actually incorrect. Like in-game is actually broken. It heals 50% instead of 5. If the game devs ever fix this down to 5%, and then the Hellish Claw will be perfectly balanced and it will no longer be that OP. So before that, so these are still the 3 most OP weapons that I've encountered in my PvP so far. And if you're looking to boost your PvP team, these are the weapons that you want to get. One honorable mention will go to Fran's 4-star weapon, which does good damage, but it's not as OP as Helen's 4-star weapon, right? So basically this one, Fran's 4-star weapon, Azure Ice will actually do double damage because it attacks once for 100% damage. And then after the enemy gets a negative and positive charge effect, right, which is part of Celen's passive, you will deal another additional attack, which deals another 100% of damage. So if you highly modify this, you can actually deal more than 200% of damage. So Fran's weapon will get an honorable mention, but those 3 weapons that I mentioned earlier are the most OP PvP weapons that I have experienced in game right now. And thank you very much for watching. See you guys next time.